So glad to have you on.
So glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a minute. It's been about 3 or 4 weeks. Spacing out the podcast a little bit and feeling tender and a little raw from the past week. But I think this is this was perfect.
It's all perfect.
It's all perfect. It's all perfect. Yeah, we got a great week of this morning. Did a nice bath session with some of the crew from the retreat we just did. And yeah, just recovering my strength. I'm sure you are too.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's cooling down here in Austin, so you get a little bit of cool air, and man, it's so amazing. Hoppe, this was my last week on the retreat that we went on outside of Austin. Did the most Hoppe I've ever done. We just did a little session. It's amazing how, with intentions and prayer and presence, it just locks you right in. And such a tool, such a amazing plant medicine. And yeah, I look forward to utilizing it to, remain grounded and pray. Yeah, I look forward to really digesting and getting all the details of who you are.
Mm.
And we kind of got some of that on the retreat. A lot of love, a lot of connection, a lot of gaining more and more respect and intimacy with you and with our fellow brothers and sisters on that retreat. Yeah, man.
Truth.
Yeah. And yeah, we were planning on doing this like weeks ago. And oh man, doing it now is like so perfect. I want to give you the opportunity to just what was the biggest takeaway from this retreat for you that we went on? And just for context, for people that are listening, we were about an hour out on a beautiful ranch, hour from Austin, and over 30 people joined us for some plant medicine ceremonies and to really do the work. And this work, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. And so many, moments of learning about myself, learning about others. And Julian, one of the gentlemen there on the retreat, co-leading with Jay Azeltine, he said on the integration call, we received more than we perceived.
Mm.
And I absolutely agree with that. If I had done it, let's say if I had gone on this retreat or this experience by myself and just with maybe a few others I didn't really know, if it was just me, don't get me wrong, this plant medicine still would have been a blessing, but the amount of love and vulnerability and true just listening and support and yeah, just bonding was so heart filling, so heart filling for me. to be heard, right? I think we all want to be heard. We all want to be loved. We all want to be seen,
Mhm.
and to release anything that you want to release. At least for me, it felt so good, to do that in the face of other people, of
Mm.
brothers and sisters. And one of the biggest, I mean, there's so many memories, so many amazing moments that I'm still digesting. But a big one for me was when it was right after, I think it was the last ceremony. Yeah. And I had to release at the fire pit. We were doing some hot bay.
Mm.
Probably 4 or 5 of us. You were there, Julian, Brandon.
Mhm.
And I released something I've been holding on to for so long.
Mm.
And, Brandon and you and I, we've known each other 5 or 6 months now or more.
Mhm.
But it was amazing to receive your support and for me to unravel
Mm.
that energy. And it's amazing how you don't know how much people are holding on to. And Brandon said that,
Mm.
you said that, and the growing respect that you've had for me and the respect that I've had for you and everyone else there, you just, there's nothing like it, man. There's
Mhm.
nothing like it. And I'm just so honored to have experienced what we experienced. And myself and Jay and many others were saying it was the best week, one of the best weeks of our lives. I can say for sure for myself, most beautiful, powerful week of my life.
Mm.
And it's the second ayahuasca plant medicine retreat I've ever done. And one of these videos that I just posted, kind of like a testimonial to what Jay has created, co-created. I had doubts before doing the second one. I wasn't sure. I heard a lot of different things. I'm new to this space. I wanted to be intentional. I was wondering if this was something that I was just doing out of like an ego
Mm.
pursuit and ambition, or if it was safe to do it again, and just all these different questions and maybe illusions that I created, which I think to a degree is healthy, right? You want to be authentic, you want to hold true to yourself, and you want to make sure you're doing things for the right reason.
Mm.
And man, I was proved that this was the right step in the right direction. um and I received a lot of wisdom from the medicine,
Mhm.
um, from from everybody there, and some of those visions that I received from the medicine, in particular, the very, very first night, was a clear indication that this path for me, whether it's plant medicine, but to some capacity, leading, helping to lead
Mm.
in this realm, right? And whether it's plant medicine, whether it's other types of medicines, or just holding space for different people and uplifting their spirit and strengthening them, it just feels so right.
Mm.
And I received that confirmation. I'm so glad, so honored. Um, and I went up to the day after, or the night, yeah, it was the day after the first night of the first ceremony. I went up to Aaron, who is, um, helping Jay and great brother of mine. Went up to him, and me and him have had conversations, and he could sense like months ago some doubts and within me, right? Because there's been this call between myself and Aaron and potentially others to help Jay with all of this, right? And that's where a lot of doubts came in. And I told Aaron, I was like, listen, man, I know subconsciously or just through feelings that you could maybe sense my questioning,
Mhm.
but I got a very clear signal. And then I went up to Jay and I told him the same thing and expressed my gratitude for him and told him like, man, I'm honored and I have so much respect for you, and I want to help you and to whatever capacity that I can. as I also do the work and I also strengthen myself and mold and shape my character. And I was hesitant because I wanted to make sure I was right. I wanted to make sure I don't know if worthy is the right word, but I wanted to make sure that I was appropriately stepping into this potential path. Um, and yeah, we just had a really good moment, you know? And so that was the first night.
Mhm.
And I experienced many other things,
Mhm.
many other clearing, demystifying of different um, creations of my ego that weren't serving me. Demystified that, and to be in the presence of um, the people that were leading and creating and conducting the ceremonies, how like the divine mother and divine father presence and energy that they had, the music that they were playing and the space that they were holding, the stories that Kevin was expressing, and it was just so magical. It was so magical, and oh man, just grounding. And we're as men in our 30s, we're go go go, executing executing, and after some time you can kind of get caught up in that executing and then maybe lose sight of where your heart is aligned,
Mhm.
at least for me. um, and you're trying your best, but at certain points you kind of lose that clarity of mind because you're just pursuing, executing.
Mhm.
And it's so important to come back to the heart, to come back to what is your highest good, what your actions, on a day-to-day basis, are they aligned with that highest good and where your heart feels is right.
Mhm.
And so, man, I love you, dude.
Love you, Shane.
So
Thank you,
glad
man.
you're here. And yeah, man, I love to hear one of your biggest takeaways from this experience with everybody.
Mhm.
So many.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Mhm. Forgiveness
Mm,
is my overall biggest takeaway.
mm,
Julian said to me, "All healing ends in forgiveness."
mm,
And it's an experience. So it's hard to translate that into words or tell other people what that's like because words just don't do it justice.
mhm,
Um, but when you feel forgiveness and when you feel love and you feel gratitude, and you feel everything at such a deep level, it changes you
mm,
and it heals you. So, uh, yeah, that moment by the fire with you, I just remember feeling so much love for you and gratitude and the forgiveness that you were feeling. It's overwhelmingly beautiful
mhm,
and empowering. And
mm,
a couple of the takeaways. One, something Camilo said, which was this week that we're having is actually a break from the ceremony. Life is the ceremony.
mhm,
And we get to have the opportunity to take a step back and be our authentic self and experience that wisdom and kindness and compassion of the mother and the father,
mm.
and really take an honest look of how we're doing in the ceremony, how
Yeah.
we're doing in life.
Yeah.
So I love that. And another big takeaway for me was, we go through our lives and we're so close to the painting,
Mm.
all we can see is these messy brushstrokes, and um, it doesn't look pretty sometimes. And when we take a step back, we see that it's a masterpiece.
Mm.
And sometimes when you're deep in it, even in the medicine, the message that was coming through to me through them and through myself was just create a millimeter of space,
Mm.
just observe and just witness it. It's a gift. It's, my favorite poem by Rumi is being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival. And the shame and the grief and the guilt and the happiness and the joy. It's a visitor from God, and it's here to show you the way.
Mm.
And when you can create that space, when you can take just a millimeter of breath, you get out of this reactive loop. You're able to clearly see what's the path forward,
Mhm.
no matter what you're going through. Um, so gracias to
Mm.
the medicine keepers and to
Mm.
the medicine. And one of the big takeaways for me too was just the amount of I felt everyone's nerves when we came in. Everyone was scared. And it's refreshing to see a group of grown men scared and not afraid of being scared, just like nervous and coming in with all their preconceived notions, with all of their, what they've heard other people tell them about it. And, oh, this is going to be the hardest week of my life. This is going to be so scary. And
Yeah.
then, to move through that as we move through it for 6 days, and as we feel that support and as we open up, everybody just left there just so alive, so bright, so just like trusting
Mm.
of the process, and gives me a lot of hope for this world, gives me a lot of hope for our future, our kids' future.
Mm.
Another thing that always blows me away with this work is how quickly the healing comes. I work with regenerative agriculture, and I'm really kind of obsessed with hemp.
Mhm.
And you could spray a cornfield with pesticides for 40 years, and you can plant hemp, and in 18 months, the soil will be regenerated.
Mm. Wow.
It's such a it's such a blessing. It's such, that's how loved we are. Is
Mm.
you can mess up for 40 years. You could just hold on to all that stuff that you had to shut down as a child in order to survive. And you can make mistakes time and time again, and then you can open yourself up to the prayer. And in 1 week, you can let it go. You can come home. You can regenerate your soil. You can regenerate your soul.
Mm.
And that just gives me hope. It gives me faith. It gives me love. And blown away. There's more I could share, but
Mm.
that's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, it feels like it went by so fast, but also there was nights that felt like it was an eternity. And we were sitting next to each other the first ceremony, or like
Yeah.
it was me, then Alex and you, and about an hour or two in, maybe past the second cup, I could just I mean, I knew for myself how deep we were, and I could just sense it in you guys too. It was a powerful ceremony. Powerful. And yeah.
He's a great teacher. He was teaching me how to cry,
Mm.
how to laugh, how to love, how to dance, how to receive. How to receive. Oh, so good to know I don't always have to give.
Yeah, man.
I'm enough.
I feel like a lot of the times we laugh because our maybe social preconditions. Like we laugh to maybe make sure people feel welcomed, or like we're also holding in the ability to cry and the ability to like purely express emotions, right? Like I know many men in my life. I don't think I've ever seen them cry, and if I have, I mean, it's very few, you know. And so to be able to, yeah, to receive and to recognize by the utilization of this medicine, you know, these parts of our mind, parts of how we've kind of been, you know, orchestrating things within ourselves
Mm,
that may not really be pure, you know, like we're just trying to protect certain parts of our identity and
mhm,
kind of lose a part of ourselves, the real part of ourselves. And to be able to express that, you know, by the fire, when I was expressing that, I did let out a cry. And man, I mean, Julian came over after I like was done, and he just, you know, him being the healer that he is, you know, kind of just moved out some energy for me, rubbing my shoulders, just kind of doing his thing. And once he was done, man, I was like trembling, letting out stored emotions
mhm.
and energy that's probably been there for years, for decades.
Yeah. Mm,
And when you keep that inside of you for so long, you don't kind of let that out. You know, you just kind of get pent up. You become more fearful. You
mhm,
don't know how to carry yourself in the manner that's a true expression of your own love. And all this
mhm,
sounds, you know, maybe very uh maybe embellished, or I don't know. Sometimes there's just, if I were to receive everything, like listen to this conversation that we're having, like it's hard to really take in because you have to experience it. You have to experience decades, years of storing all those emotions,
mm,
and then being able to actually be present in a space that offers you the ability without judgment to just let things flow. And so healing, so healing. And you know, the night, the very very end of the night, uh, when I was talking to you, and there was Kevin, and I think KT, and then Kevin, I think, left, and I was just talking to you. Like the way that I was speaking to you, it was just pure
mhm,
love.
mhm,
It felt so confident. It felt like the divine masculine within me. It felt like my divine self, my
mhm,
higher self. There was no fear of judgment, just like pure awareness and expression, and you know,
mhm.
tapping into that more and more as we live this life. I mean, that's powerful. It's really powerful. And yeah, it's crazy, man.
It's gold.
It's
It's
crazy.
gold. Um, I wrote something I wanna share
Yeah, man.
about the experience because then we come home, so we had this beautiful another thing I took away was I'm sure we'll get into it, but I'm building a land project, a
Mm,
retreat center,
yeah, man.
um, and just, yeah, creating that sacred space for the split psyche to come home. And that is, like gives me so much more drive and passion and purpose
Mhm.
to continue that because it's not easy.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, we created this sacred space together. We had true divine connection to ourselves, to source, to each other. And then we leave.
Mm.
And then we come home. We come home to a world that is full of the things that we arrived with, full of fear, full of anger, full of resentment, full of judgment, of literal war.
Mm.
It's a manifestation and a representation of us. And literally, I just yesterday or the day before, I finally got on social media, checked out what was going on in the world, and it was like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like,
Yeah.
wow. We are, there's a quote that I love. It's like, we have Paleolithic emotions, we have medieval institutions, and we have godlike technology.
It's from a Joe Rogan podcast.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah.
And those Paleolithic emotions are, it's time for them to evolve. It's time for them to catch up with the technology that we have. Otherwise, we're just going to keep killing each other.
Yeah.
And so I wrote this. I'd like to share. I said, last week, I sat with a bunch of men, warriors, Iron Men, fathers, sons, brothers, leaders. We moved through our pain, decades of stored trauma. We moved through our blocks, blind spots that we've had with us from a young age. We moved through our fear, this deep program implanted in us somewhere along the way, and other stored emotions that created real problems in our lives: resentment, anger, distrust, grief, sadness, manipulation, and more fear. We also found big gifts: joy, love, appreciation, gratitude, faith, deep belly laughter, and brothers you can be completely yourself with and be loved exactly as that. And we emerge as a unit, stronger, yet lighter, ready and willing to give up the never-ending fight and shine. Then we step back into this world. It's hard work to face all of your demons, but it's also really hard to live in a world where they have a place to live and grow and feed all the way into war. Choose your heart. I am a child of God. I choose omnipresent love every day. I am a warrior of the light. I choose to put down my guards and walk in faith and peace. I will practice this daily. See, we are all one family. We can heal. We can do it quick. I just witnessed that. We can stop killing. We can stop the fighting. We can stop running and replace warmongers with true leaders. Let's find a way together for the children, for the earth. Begin within. Forgive yourself. All healing ends with forgiveness. If you need help, reach out. I'm here.
That was amazing. That was really good. Wow.
Yeah.
That was powerful, man.
Thank you.
That was powerful. Yeah, I haven't, I've touched, so when I was at the retreat it was almost, my experience kind of started on Saturday. I did combo on Saturday with Brandon here in Austin. And then the day after that, did some breath work. And so for the combo session, I didn't purge physically. I purged emotionally at a deep cry, but the cry was different. It sounded different. It felt different. It was like grief, letting out grief. And then the next day at the breathwork session, I laughed so fucking hard, so hard. So like Brandon was there because he was leading that breathwork session with his friend Luke, and Luke was there for me laughing and just it's crazy how contagious laughter is because the people around me. We had some shares after, and this guy in front of me, he was like, I was going through the breath work and I couldn't help but feel frustrated.
Mm.
Just kept thinking about frustration of like, this isn't working or this isn't doing this for me and other things. But then I started hearing this guy behind me laugh so hard. And I just started laughing too. I was just like, that's great, man. I was crying, laughing. I was sweating, laughing.
Yeah.
And so since like the start of combo and breath work, I really didn't touch this thing. I didn't touch social media at all. And then during the retreat on the ranch, like I literally left my phone in my camper and maybe sent like 3 or 4 texts, man. And I'm, thankful to have the opportunity. Like I'm not an entrepreneur right now. I mean, maybe this is like the start of it, this podcast. But I work for a company. It's a 9 to 5. And so I don't have to like, balance them or put out fires and stuff like that. So I could just put it away and just not care about it. And wow, how like amazing. Just 1 week of not touching this thing and being in nature felt. But to your comment on coming back to that stimulation, I went on Instagram the past couple of days, very, very briefly, to post a video, to connect with some of the brothers that we met. But yeah, you can get sucked right back into that stuff, man. And there's, crazy stuff happening in the world. But it's a tool, right? It's a tool for us to use. A part of your, a part of what you just said
Mm.
in that poem, replacing the warmongers with, I forgot exactly what you said, leaders or
True leaders.
true leaders. Part of us men, light warriors, we can utilize these tools to accomplish that mission. But using it wisely, that's something that I'm really honing in on because I did get sucked into it when I was creating stuff for the podcast. And, you just kind of forget. You just start to get more and more sucked in. And then like as you're scrolling, you're just seeing so many different things and like your mind's just absorbing all these different things. And,
Yeah.
you're storing things. You don't even sometimes have a awareness of like how you reacted emotionally to that. And you just don't take the time to like, okay, how did that make me feel? You just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
You just keep going. And it's like, whoa, that doesn't feel good. And then you're like, a couple weeks, couple months, couple years go by and you just keep doing that. And you're like, oh, I haven't checked in with myself
Mm-hmm.
to recognize what this is doing to me. And I think I saw this woman, she had a shirt on. She's like, our phones could be killing us. And I was like, that's to a degree. I mean, there's some truth in that. Right. But I just being careful with this thing because it's such a great, like I posted my video and Julian and Jay and Justin and Elidio and all these other guys comment on it and like the love felt by seeing their comments. It's like so great, right? It's such a good tool for that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can, just keep scrolling. And so it's just being careful with it. And yeah, coming back home, having this week off for me, man, it is so helpful, such a power move to integrate as we kind of contract back.
Mm-hmm.
Julian stated in our integration call, it was like, we're going to face this contraction. Like this is inevitable and it's okay. And like, just feel it out. Just let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think that week off, like the contraction is happening and it could happen even more aggressively next week, but I think it's happening more just in smaller doses. And so having that week off to really journal and to, thankfully, I'm here in Austin with you guys, right? And with Brandon, I spent time with Brandon. Me and him, I think it was Sunday night or Monday night, we just had a fire in his backyard and we were reading Liquid Light. Like it was like Bible studies or something, bro. It just kind of commenting on what we were reading. This guy, this author, I mean, it's such an amazing book. It's called Liquid Light and Ayahuasca spirituality and Santo Daime tradition. And so this guy just so eloquently and effectively puts into words what is so difficult to put into words. Um, and so we were just going back and forth, and me and Brandon were really just talking about like how strong I feel
Mm.
for the Santo Daime. And I'm gonna follow my heart and have clarity of mind and see where this path goes. But it was this, this religious tradition use utilizing this psychedelic, this medicine, this sacred sacrament. It feels so right. And I think what the only things that are holding me back is the judgment of society, the judgment of other people.
Yeah.
Because using these things, these plant medicines to some, for the most part, I've been very public about my use of ayahuasca, and for the most part, I mean, people have been super supportive.
Mhm.
But it's still like in the back of, you can kind of sense it, you can kind of feel it subconsciously, like, say, oh, what are you doing?
Mhm.
That's kind of weird, right? And but going back to the Paleolithic minds and Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan just released an episode with Brian. His last name starts with an M, Mascara maybe something. But he wrote this book called The Immortality Key.
Mm.
I read like maybe half of it a year ago, and I wasn't as like naturally curious and stimulated by it, but now I am. But he writes about the history and the findings, the recent findings of how like just so many ancient civilizations incorporated these plant medicines, these psychedelics into their own spiritual practices thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yep.
So it's been around for a long time, and it's helped civilizations, communities really just find a deeper sense of fulfillment and purpose and connection. And I strive to really help with showing the respect and the integrity, um, you know, with these plant medicines
Mhm.
versus the stigma and the harsh judgment and,
Yeah.
you know,
I would love to speak about that. That's,
yeah.
I mean, there's several points I wanna make to what you said.
We got time. We
Um,
got so much time.
First things first, you said laughter is contagious, 100%.
Mm.
So is fear,
Mm. Mm.
and that is just good to be aware of, the lowest common denominator of how we connect right now emotionally in this world is through fear,
Mm.
and that's why social media can be intense
Yeah.
and heavy, um, but also, how many times have you been on social media where you found a little nugget of wisdom that you carry with you?
So many
Because
times.
it's contagious, so
Yeah.
I think just being aware of that and curating it, and also knowing that the intention of creating it was to capture your attention,
Mm.
and your attention, your presence is sacred.
Mm. Mhm.
It is everything.
Mhm.
And so, what are you giving your attention to? What are you giving your awareness to? What are you giving your presence to? And if you do that with presence and purpose, then it could spread the light.
Mhm.
And if you're not, it can spread the dark, and it's all part of it.
Mhm.
And I've been kind of sitting with this week about mental illness. Um, Mental illness being the illusion of separation, the illusion of a one way.
Mm.
The world is one way. It has always been this way, and so it will always be this way. So the Catholics, the Muslims, the Jews, the Republicans, the Democrats, the whoever is feeding this illusion in themselves that their way is the way. Guess what they all agree on? Plant medicine is bad because somewhere, as a society, in a sense, society or culture is an illusion. It
Mm.
is a It is a set of conditions and programs and perceived values that a large group of people agree on.
Mm.
And they feel justified with that illusion, aka mental illness, because they're surrounded by other people with the same illusion. Also goes back to the social media thing. You only follow people who have the same viewpoints as you.
Yeah.
And it just, to me, I started laughing this week because I was like, wow, it's like they can't agree on anything. Clearly, like, yet they all agree that sitting with plant medicine is bad and is wrong. And, you know, we experience it and then we're like, wait, this doesn't feel wrong. This feels so right. This feels so clear. This feels so grounding. It feels so humbling. It's not from a place of ego. It's from a place of blowing up your preconceived notions, blowing up your illusion and being like, oh my God, I am it. So, yeah. And then, you know, I just also, it's like these lab made drugs are really new. Like we don't have thousands of years of research on what these medicines, I put those in air quotes because it's a lab made synthetic substance. We don't have thousands of years of research on how they affect us and our children and our society and our culture and our preconceived notions. We looking at it close to the painting, we're like, they're doing good. But when you take a step back, you're like, if you look at the health of our country, it's in a tailspin. And I imagine these pharmaceuticals are a big part of that because they numb the self, they numb the pain, they numb uh, the soul's desire to find truth, and they narrow your focus into finding what is already seen in the conscious mind. And then you get a step, and then these technologies, plant medicines, psychedelics, they have been around for thousands of years, and they have been tested, and they have been put into ceremony, and they have been put into a song, and they have been put into a prayer. And they're the safest, most effective way to clear what is no longer serving you. So I think it's just something to understand. It's kind of like running an Ironman. It's like pushing your boundaries so far that you're like, that you'll never be the same again because you're like, wow, I thought I was a lot smaller than that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, I'm actually really big and I'm actually really strong and I'm guided. I'm guided. There's something else above me. It's guiding me. It's showing me the way. I just need to step back, create that space, and feel it. And as I feel into spirit or God, it's so playful. It's so spontaneous. It's so funny. Like it's fun. But I couldn't see it for a long time. And yeah, the other big takeaway for me on this trip was like this real forgiveness for the Catholic Church. I grew up in that, and there's a lot of stuff I took away, good and bad. But you know, I really felt like this was my confirmation, which in the Catholic Church it goes baptism, first communion, confirmation, and then marriage. And I'm kind of really grateful for the sacraments and the process. Although I had to come to myself, to myself naturally. I can really feel this true stepping into, okay, I have confirmation that I know exactly what I'm doing, even when I don't. And yeah, there's nothing else to do with
Mm.
that but celebrate. So
Phew.
you saw me out there. I was celebrating. I was dancing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So many beautiful threads.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the similarity of all those demographics of ideologies, having a negative stigma towards plant medicines. Um, maybe, yeah, from the outside, it's hard for them to reciprocate, right? This book, Liquid Light, the author kind of does a little pause in his journey to the Santo Daime and this ayahuasca spirituality path, and talks about consciousness and certain theories of the derivation of consciousness. And some people, he does one little section of our brains produce it, and then another one
Hmm.
that so that one was the productive theory, and the other theory is, I believe, transmissive.
Mm.
So our brains are there to help receive
Mhm.
our flow of consciousness, which is very fascinating for me. Um, and he talks about two different types of knowledge. One being knowing about and knowing by acquaintance, and by acquaintance is like, you know, maybe, yeah, immersing, drinking a cup of ayahuasca, doing it actually, and having it flow through me, versus reading a book about it. That's the know about. Like you're knowing by describing, but you're not, through the acquaintance of something else, actually adhering or just receiving that knowledge directly. So there's like a direct and an indirect type of knowing. And I think the people on the outside, well, I know the people that you were referring to, those different groups of society, it's all know about, right? They read it, they watch maybe videos, or they hear stories about maybe the bad stuff. Like there are people out there that use these plant medicines not with integrity, not in a sacred atmosphere. And, going back to like when Nixon was president in the 60s, at Woodstock and the hippie movement. And then all of a sudden a government cracked down on it, and literally commercials would show like, this is your brain on these drugs, right? And so there's a lot of fear at that point in society. And we now have many more people using social media to help with this psychedelic revolution, right? I think, or renaissance, to show that with proper, appropriate implementation, they can be massive tools for acceleration of growth.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I had other threads. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, I was also raised Catholic for a brief phase of my life, and my family kind of drifted out of it when I was like becoming an adolescent, and so I was baptized. Pretty sure I received my confirmation, and I thought there was one other step.
First communion.
So yeah, baptized, first communion. I did not get my confirmation. But when you said that this was like your confirmation, that hit me. That fucking hit me, bro.
Yes,
And like my parents, my dad and family, like I think, yeah, they were just okay with me not pursuing that. And a big part of that phasing out was because the Catholic Church was doing things that were really inappropriate. And many other religions can dive into spiritual materialism where there isn't really this pureness. It's out of maybe impure desires, or selfishness. So yeah, this this retreat and the ceremonies, man, I mean, it felt like I said to Alex when he was sitting next to us in the first ceremony, and I told him the morning after, I was like, I met God, and I've always been skeptical. I had fear around talking about that, and thinking, yeah, I had doubts of a higher,
Mm.
being, and those doubts are gone now. Those doubts are definitely gone.
My brother's getting well. I was so I was so happy to see my brother's getting well.
Yeah.
And wow. Yeah, there's no words to that. That's amazing. And it's a deep dive, and I totally understand if it's not for everyone, and um that's okay. Uh, I wouldn't suggest somebody run an Ironman
Hmm.
right off the bat.
Yeah.
It's the exploration of your mind and your consciousness is as close to a, a, a person as their sexuality. It is a fundamental human right to be able to explore that,
Mm.
to be able to lean into that in a safe container, in a safe space. And the sexuality piece is pushed so much in our culture, and there is to me such a sacredness around it, right? Like doing it in a safe space and having awareness of the sacred act of sex is imperative. And I would say the same thing here.
Mm.
Exploring your mind, exploring consciousness, exploring your limits, your boundaries, your fears is sacred. It needs to be treated as such. It needs to have
Mm.
a container around it. And that's why we have teachers, and that's why this wisdom has been passed down through time is like, don't just do it and then, not have awareness or containment around it.
Mm.
Um, and when you do have the right container for it, when it does call you, okay,
Mm.
soften, open, receive, trust. Things are going to come up. And there was two kids there.
Yeah.
Really helped me just like, oh yeah, I was a boy once. Like as a boy, I didn't need this. You don't need psychedelics as a child. Like you're tapped into source, you're tapped into the spontaneity, you're tapped into the play,
Yeah.
you're tapped into the full expression of your soul. And so I seek to live in a world where maybe we don't need this. But
Huh.
if we are, we have a lot of shedding, we have a lot of stored trauma that needs to feel safe to come out.
Mm.
And we can create ceremony, right? We can create space. We can create containers for it to come through. And that's a worthy mission
Mm.
for our species right now. When we do that, when you like we said it earlier, but I don't have any needs this week. I don't have I have all these big dreams. I have all these big goals. I have all these projects I'm working on, but I don't have a need for them to manifest,
Mm.
for me to be happy,
Mm.
whole, healthy.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I am that. And because I do the work to know that it was here all along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one thread I wanted to pull on, talking about when you were a boy
Mm,
and seeing the boys there. Um, for me, at a very young age, when I was a boy, when I was just a toddler, I had a lot of things happen to me, and so yeah, it happened at such a young age,
mm,
and to be able to take these sacraments, be a part of this medicine journey. I mean, part of me is finding right now as a 30-year-old man, finding parts of me that I never knew, that I never fucking knew.
Or you always knew, but you're just remembering.
Yeah. Well, I always wonder because of these things that happen at the age of like 3 or 4 and like these buildups of traumatic events. Did I really ever know my true self, my pure self? And maybe at certain glimpses, like the fear resided. But yeah, man, it's just so it's magical. It really does feel like real life magic,
Mm.
and it's almost indescribable. Like you can't put it into words. It's just beyond rational conception.
Mhm.
And so I'm so grateful and for this organic, divine, natural way of finding it.
Mm.
Jay was sitting in here in this studio, months and months ago.
Mm.
In the very beginning, the first 5 minutes of our conversation, I was like, yeah, I wasn't really seeking this in a way. And then I was like, in a way, maybe I was. I was seeking to, uplift my mind, my body, my spirit. But it wasn't like blaring ayahuasca.
Mhm.
There was no really desire or focus around it. And so that's why I'm like, it's also a big reason why it feels right because it kind of just landed into my path
Mhm.
so naturally, so organically. And Jay was like, yeah, it was divine.
Mhm.
We just met each other in such a great way. And every time I tell people how we met, they're like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. But to pull on the threads of your businesses,
Mhm.
what you're doing. And I told you, so, I just was talking about the visions I had about Jay and Aaron and helping them. But I had visions of you.
Mhm.
I told you, I think already, but to kind of dive more into it. And it's like, I saw you in the medicine and what you're doing.
Mm.
And I haven't been on your land. Can't wait to be there.
Mm.
Can't wait to walk that land. But I thought of you and I saw you and what you're trying to do and what can unfold.
Mm.
And that was pretty damn cool.
Mhm. Oh.
Oh. And so, you've told me a lot about what you're doing, and it seems like you're a man of many hats when it comes to different businesses. And so I wanted to gain a little bit more clarity, on what you're doing. I have a good idea, but would love to hear if you want to, wherever you want to start, just talk about it.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
And I do just want to come back to that. It just fell in my lap statement. Another thing that was said during the ceremony, which I loved, was you have a double PhD in your old self. So from 3 until 30, you built up your old self and you got a double PhD. You worked hard for that identity. You worked
Yeah.
hard for that personality. And you felt you put so much work into it. You got a double PhD, like you're good. And then you find out, oh, it's not actually me.
Mm.
And then you're like, oh, that's really scary. My new self
You're in kindergarten.
is in kindergarten. And you're like, I can't go back.
I can't go back. What the fuck? Spent so much time.
And then when you get out of your own ego, you're like, kindergarten's way more fun.
Yeah. I want to play.
I want to play. I just want to play. I want to dance. I want to. When I was in kindergarten, I just wanted to climb trees.
Mm.
They had to get me down from the trees, like to come back to class. I'm like, I just want to climb trees, dude. I'm in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And so I started this journey too when I was 30, and so I've been in it for 4 years. I am grateful for the wisdom and the presence I've had, knowing that I was emerging as a new self and I wasn't there yet. And I was okay with not being there as long as it meant I wasn't going to go down the same path as my old self.
Mm.
I was just walking the path, one step at a time, one day at a time. Sometimes I couldn't even pick myself up
Dude.
off the floor.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
And then things started to fall into my lap. Like, and as they fell into my lap, I said, yes. I said, okay. New teacher. Yes. New retreat. Yes. Spent all my money just to follow this whisper. Because God whispers. He doesn't just until you don't listen to the whisper over many years, and then he hits you with a Mack truck. But like when you come back, you're like, oh, it's a whisper. So I started to follow this whisper in 2019 and in 2020. And then as I was coming back to myself, as I was working through my trauma, I felt like the world was going crazy at the same time. COVID happened, and I closed some real estate deals. So my background is in real estate and finance. And I closed some real estate deals. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to just do what I always wanted to do, which was buy a van. And I went to 33 states in 2020. And I traveled to Airbnbs, hip camps, RV parks, national parks. And I spent 9 months just communing with the land and with people who were also doing that. You know, a lot of older folks, a lot of Vietnam War vets, a lot of retirees who just hop in their RVs and go out, and they'd make me dinner, and we would just, and it was just so amazing. And for the first time in my life, I was free from the stress and the pressure of the job, of the corporate mindset. And yeah, I started to just continue going down that journey for years and years, and built my first hemp temple. And I was like, whoa, you can build houses out of hemp. Never heard about that before. And I was like, okay, I've sold houses for almost 10 years, and I've never seen a house like this. It's mold resistant, it's fire resistant, it's water resistant. When you walk in it and you speak, it sounds amazing. The air replaces the air in the building twice every hour, so you don't need central AC.
Wow. I didn't know that.
And as we're building it, you put a bunch of water into it, and you're praying to it, and you're drumming to it. And so you feel this vibration, and you're just like, whoa, we could build with intention. We can build. And when people come and experience that, regardless of whether they're taking medicine or not, they feel good.
I feel the difference.
They feel like this was, we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
So they feel like, oh, there's something I don't know. And then they learn about it, and they're like, whoa, what else don't I know? And so I was like, that could be my medicine, is creating intentional spaces, creating healthy homes, creating community, and creating structures for a much more reciprocal, circular way of living, working, and healing. And I mean, it was a faith walk, bro. It was a total faith walk. And, just had to check my ego many, many times. They say a hungry stomach, a broken heart, and an empty wallet will teach you everything you need to know about yourself. I agree. And I learned a lot about myself in the process. And yeah, so last year was building hemp houses, and I walked on this land, and it's 200 acres out in Kingsbury, Texas, which is 15 minutes south of San Marcos. And originally, I met the owner of the property. His name is Bill. Same name. And we just hit it off. He's like, this is my dream. I was like, this is my dream. And he was like, let's do it. Let's build it. And I was just like, what? How did that happen? Like, it just fell in my lap. But there was 4 other partners involved, and the energies weren't mixing. There was 6 of us, and 2 of us had an idea, and so there was just a lot of conflict and mismatched energetics. And so we had to go through a process of figuring that out, and it ended up just me and him by the end of last year, like January of this year.
Bill squared.
Bill squared. And, and yeah, so the project is called Flood Tip Ranch. It's on the San Marcos River, um, and it's 200 acres.
Mm.
And we're building a retreat center, an RV park, a tiny home village, a hemp temple,
Mm.
50 glamp sites down by the river, a stage and cabanas, and it's gonna host concerts, events, seminars, workshops, healing retreats, rewilding retreats, just getting people back to the land. It's far enough away that you feel like you're out there, but it's still 45 minutes from Austin.
Mm.
And yeah, it's a vision. Flood Tip is actually the name of a Hail Mary pass
Hmm.
that Doug Flutie threw against Texas A&M when he played for Boston College.
Really?
My partner was at the
Boston too?
Boston
I'm
College.
from Massachusetts.
Yeah, so it's a famous play, Boston College against Texas A&M. Doug
Oh,
Flutie,
wow.
last second of the game, throws a Hail Mary.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Name of that play was Flood Tip.
Wow, okay.
And so my partner was at that game.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it impacted him, and he named his boat that. He was a sailor for a long time. And so when it came down to the name, he's like, I want to name it Flood Tip. I'm like,
Mm.
oh man, that sounds great. Cause it's our Hail Mary. Hey, we I love the quote. There was a man who wanted to change the world. And so he went out and he tried to change the world. And he found out really quickly that he couldn't do that. So he said, okay, I want to change my country. He went out and tried to change his country and found out he couldn't do that. So he's like, all right, I'm going to change my state. And then he went out and couldn't change his state. He's like, okay, I'm going to change my neighborhood.
Mm.
He went out, found out he couldn't change his neighborhood. All right, I'm going to change my family. And couldn't even do that. He said, I guess I'll start with myself.
Mm.
And so as I changed myself, I realized, wow, I have so much to give to this world. I know so much about finance, accounting, business, all of those things that I was trained in when I was unaware. It's funny, I have gratitude for being unaware so that I could dive
Mm-hmm.
and get all of this mental strength and wisdom and intelligence. And now I'm coming back to a place where I'm changing myself and I integrate it, right? And so I create a real estate fund that houses this property that is going to be its own town one day. We picked Kingsbury because if you have 200 acres and you have 200 registered members, you can create your own town.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like, wow, now I'm moving out, right? And as I'm changing, my family's changing. Now I have a town, and that ripples out.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And that's and the idea is really simple, safe space. Something I wish I had during this healing journey was like a place I could return to where I knew there was other people who were doing the work and who were my community and my tribe. And that is going to, it's a purpose, it's a passion for me, and it's going to inspire. The other thing that struck me is as I traveled across the country, I met thousands of people who were like, that's my dream.
Mm.
I just woke up in 2018, 2019, 2020, and I realized that was my dream. I heard that over and over and over again. I'm like, that's what happened to me. Is this me, or is this something else calling me forth, asking me to expand my reach, to expand my field, to bring what I have to the table, knowing that it's enough, knowing that I have a lot to give, and I'm willing and open to receiving help because I can't do it by myself.
Mm.
So that's it's a real estate syndication. So we are taking on accredited investors. We have the land and the yurts and the glamp sites, and we need another. So my next 6 months is about raising 2.5 to 3 million to finish the hemp temple, the tiny home village, and the RV park.
Mm.
And then we'll be able to house 250 people in a bed.
Wow.
And run big time events. So as I'm doing this, I keep walking the path, and this other business comes into my awareness. My dad was actually a CEO and a CEO coach, and it was amazing. When I was 27, 28, he would bring me into these meetings with people that were running companies anywhere from $5 to $25 million in revenue a year. And I was always blown away by the the questions my dad would ask. Whatever problems they were having in business, it always led back to some problem they had with their dad, or some problem they had in childhood that created a block that wasn't
Mm.
allowing them to see what was really going on that was impacting their business. And it was like a light bulb went off, like, wow, if these people who I look up to as successful
Mm.
haven't even explored that side of themselves, and it's getting in the way of them getting to the next level, right? What
Mhm.
would life be like if we all
Wow.
did both sides of the work?
Mm.
And so that's where this whole, then I heard about the eagle condor prophecy. Did I tell you about that?
No. Maybe you mentioned it briefly, but
Um,
yeah.
so right around this time, I heard about the eagle condor prophecy, which is an ancient Inca prophecy,
Mm.
thousands of years old. It said, for thousands of years, the eagle and the condor would fly separately. And just before all the rivers dry up and all the forests are cut down, they would come back together, fly together, and lead humanity into a new era.
Mm.
And to them, the eagle was representation of the mind, the intellect. It was a hunter, it's a killer.
Mm.
And the condor is representative of the heart. It's a lover, it's a scavenger, it's a decomposer. And so the work we're talking about that we did last week was the heart work, right? And now it's like, can you align the head and the heart
Mm.
and lead us forth into a new era? And so my dad was retiring from this company, and I was like, Dad, you can't retire. It's too good. Like you're too good at what you do. I've seen it. Nobody else has seen it. Let's put it online. Let's put a course around it. Like, we need to share your wisdom. And he was like, I already shared it. It was with you. I was like,
Ooh.
dang, so true. And so I started to
Wow.
be like, I don't, there's a side of me that loves education, and it loves entrepreneurship, and it loves um, coaching. And so right at the same time this project came around in Kingsbury, another project came around with James, my partner, that I met him on Jay's retreat in Costa Rica last year. And
Mm.
I was like, James, I want to take strategy to growth, and I want to modernize it. I want to put my touch on it. I want to create something so that people can become independent producers, because we can do this work over and over again. But when we go back to our jobs, you just have to keep doing the work. If your job is not aligned with your purpose and your mission, then then you're constantly healing, because that is such a grounding force in my life, is the path towards the light, which is my
Mm.
mission.
Mm.
And so in this whole process, something fell in our lap, which was a Google ad grant.
Mm.
And Google gives $120,000 a year in ad credits to nonprofits.
Mm.
And so we now help coaches, healers, experts, authors, podcasters,
Mm.
educators establish a service-based, mission-based organization to their business.
Mm.
And we drive $120,000 worth of Google ads to that business to allow them to give away value, resources, and education for free, and then create a reciprocal circular relationship where they're also offering support to people in their community when they're ready to buy.
Mm.
And I was like, it took a lot of my energy to get this off the ground.
Yeah.
At the same time, I have this other project, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is too much.
Yeah.
But now I'm really grateful, as both of them are coming into alignment. It's like, okay, we have the space where we're going to bring people. We have the third project I'm working on is Aligned Business Leader Events, ABLE. So we have the gatherings, the workshops, the seminars. We have an event on the land this weekend called Solar Punk. And we're going to bring aligned business leaders to the land to connect, to network, and then we're going to allow them the opportunity to leave with this program that pushes the gas pedal on their service and their mission and their purpose. And it's like a trinity of projects that now I'm really stoked are kind of weaving together.
I love that.
But if you would ask me a year ago what I'm doing, I would have been like, I don't know. I'm saying, I don't know, dude. So there is this gap where you are leaving your old self and you are stepping into your new self, and you lose your friends. Your friends are giving you shit because they're like, you're not drinking anymore. You're not doing this. You're not one of us. You're crazy. You're always healing. You're doing these plant medicine. What are you doing, bro? You're losing it. You remember who you are. Remember who you came from. And you're like, I don't know. I don't know if that was ever me. So there's a gap. I call it the chasm. And in that chasm, it's lonely. It's scary. It's initiation. Because in it, I found myself, I found my strength, I found God, I found a drive and a fire inside of me that is now, when I have all of this work in 2023 and beyond, I can constantly go back to that time when I didn't have anything or anyone seemingly around me that gave me the drive and the discipline and the energy to faith walk into these programs.
Oh shit. I love it, man.
I need help. That's something I'm not afraid to ask for anymore. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak about this on your podcast because I want the word out there that it's all hands on deck. And I don't need help from you to give me anything. I need help from my brothers to step into their power and find their peace, because then we can all weave it together.
And I need help helping you with this podcast. You know, I trying to get it to become bigger. You know, it's still small, but it's growing, and I'm seeing the growth. And yeah, it's on. Well, thank you for all of that. I think it's really interesting. My first March retreat, it was all, you know, it was a small group for Jay's March retreat, and there was some other men, and then there was women, and this one female. She, I talked to her briefly. She's from Russia, and we bonded for a moment and exchanged WhatsApp information. And she was like, just before this, so we didn't talk from then until now.
Wow.
And she hit me up like a week before this retreat. She goes, "Are you going to Solar Punk?"
Wow.
I was like, "I don't know what that is." It's like, I'm not sure if I'm going to go to that. Like,
let's go.
I'm doing this retreat. Kevin's coming because she knows Kevin and all of them. And like, I don't know. And she sent the link and I just haven't responded. And now it's like, well, I think I'm going. So excited to see that unfold. And yeah, man, I really look forward to building this podcast so that people like yourself and, the brothers that were on this retreat, if they have certain things that they're trying to build too, like I can be that platform to help put them out there, and so
it's needed.
Look forward to
it, bro.
Yeah, man. Look forward to building this, and I'm really glad you were able to weave all that through. And yeah, man, coming back, I've had a little bit of fear, because of the stimulation and social media, and then also, like family and friends and, older friends, and trying to just, as Julian was saying in our integration call, he's like, you were in this meat suit, right? And then you kind of hopped out of that for this retreat. And now you're coming back into that meat suit, but you don't necessarily have to wear the same exact suit. And Julian was expressing how he found himself whenever he would come back to his father or whoever, certain people in his life, he would find himself going back to his old self, right? Like just to appease that person. It's like, no, 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 you don't have to do that. Like, and so
Mm.
that initiation you were talking about, it's very real and it's hard. It's really difficult. And, I feel like I've had that. I've had some dark moments in my life where I didn't feel like I could do it.
Mhm.
And here I am, and there's still more to continue, obviously. And, the fear of like trying, you saying like with your friends, like, oh, you're, doing all these things. Like, what, why aren't you go out and drinking with us and doing all this stuff? And it's just not a part of you anymore. And I feel the same. And just trying to, just praying for courage and strength to be able to like meet those people in my life without fear and to be able to communicate like, hey, this is who I am now. And, I love you.
Mhm.
And, that's going to be like a challenge, but I'm,
Mhm.
ready to navigate the seas of this challenge. And, Austin has been a really just such a beautiful ecosystem to help
Yeah.
me with that growth,
Yeah.
man. Like, you know, all the people, excuse me, coming back from the retreat, like they're going back to their, where they're from around the country. And I feel like if I were back in where I'm from in Massachusetts, like it's just not as I would just say the resources aren't all there compared to here. It's
Mhm.
beautiful, man. I mean, there's so many resources in Austin. I'm so grateful
Mhm.
to be able to still immerse myself into that and to keep it going, keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I wanted to say, it's a huge first of all, you're doing amazing, Shane.
You are as well, man. Thank
And,
you.
uh, in community, it doesn't feel so scary. My it was like 3 years of me having a tribe, but I was on the road, and so I was alone, and so it was like, I need a community, and
Mm,
I want to build a community
mm,
for other people who are just entering this, to land with people who have been through it and say, "Yeah, I can't do it for you,
mm,
but I can sit here with you, and I can hold you, and I can witness you, and I can celebrate you, and I can love you." And that makes it so much less of a burden,
mm.
you know?
Yeah,
And
man.
the thing I wanna say too, is they were telling us, like, the only thing that is for certain in this world is change. It's gonna change. We know that.
Yeah.
It's gonna change.
Oh, yeah.
It is changing constantly.
Big time.
The world is changing. Our systems are changing. Our structures are changing. Our society is changing. Why fight it? Why not embrace it? Why not see it? Why not integrate it? Right? And the more you do that inner work, the more you laugh
Mm,
at at the the need to
mhm,
hold on to not changing.
mm,
You let go, you surrender, you're like, "Oh, actually, I kinda like it over here." And, yeah, no, we talk a lot about money, we talk a lot about all of this work together, and the money's changing and the structures are changing and the
mm,
technology is changing, and, uh, we have a sacred, uh, role to play as millennials, as this middle generation
yeah,
between the boomers and the youngins.
yeah.
And I think what the legacy that I'd like to leave behind and hopefully the millennials as well is change is good. Change is
Oh, yeah.
good.
Yeah, there is definitely a massive change, and we learned that from COVID.
Yeah.
We've learned that from different technologies. Um, yeah, and, something that comes to mind that I was expressing with a few people at the retreat was how the darkness is in service to the light, and how the darkness has given us that perspective, the contrast,
Mm.
to be able to recognize what feels right. And yeah, man, I mean, I've had some amazing family and friends, from before I came to Austin. I love my family so much. They've been super supportive, and I look forward to the path ahead, man. I look forward to my new brothers, my new sisters, my new friends, and
Mhm.
I'm just, yeah, so grateful for that, the challenges that you face during that change, and having people like yourself and others to be able to listen to me and to hear me out and to just be supportive. And I'm
Mm.
honored to be there for you as well. And yeah, man, it's gonna be an interesting life.
My dear, teacher, Carol, she said something to me in Costa Rica on New Year's this year, and I have it on my mirror, and it is, "God hasn't sent me all the people that are gonna love me right yet."
Mm. Hmm.
And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll keep meeting new ones, and they love me so good," and, yeah, so just keep going. I
Mm.
wanna potentially read you one more of
Yeah,
my favorite
dude, of
poems.
course.
I love poetry, so
Mm.
so it's a Khalil Gibran poem, and it's on love. It says, "Then said Elmitra, 'Speak to us of love.' And he raised his head and looked upon the people, and there fell a stillness upon them. And with a great voice he said, 'When love beckons to you, follow him, though his ways are hard and steep, and when his wings enfold you, yield to him, though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you, and when he speaks to you, believe in him, though his voice may shatter your dreams, as the north wind lays waste the garden. For even as love crowns you, so shall it crucify you. Even as love is for your growth, so is he for your pruning. Even as he ascends to your height and caresses your tenderest branches that quiver in the sun, so shall he descend to your roots and shake them in their clinging to the earth. Like sheaves of corn, he gathers you unto himself. He threshes you to make you naked. He sifts you to free you from your husks. He grinds you to whiteness. He kneads you until you are pliant. And then he assigns you to his sacred fire, that you may become sacred bread for God's sacred feast. All these things shall love do unto you, that you may know the secrets of your heart, and in that knowledge become a fragment of life's heart. But if in your fear you should seek only love's peace and love's pleasure, then it is better for you that you cover your nakedness and pass out of love's threshing floor into the seasonless world where you shall laugh, but not all of your laughter, and weep, but not all of your tears. Love gives not but itself and takes not but from itself. Love possesses not, nor would it be possessed, for love is sufficient unto love. When you love, you should not say, God is in my heart, but rather, I am in the heart of God.
Hmm.
And think not you can direct the course of love, for love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course. Love has no other desire but to fulfill itself. But if you love and must needs have desires, let these be your desires: to melt and be like a running brook that sings its melody to the night, to know the pain of too much tenderness, to be wounded by your own understanding of love, and to bleed willingly and joyfully, to wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving, to rest at the noon hour and meditate love's ecstasy, to return home at eventide with gratitude, and then to sleep with a prayer for the beloved in your heart and a song of praise upon your lips.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Mm. I gotta come to you for poems on a weekly basis.
Yeah, bro,
man.
come through.
Oh man. We still have a little bit of time here. And was wondering if there's anything that else comes up from the retreat, because we kind of only mentioned a few things, and
Mm,
the Temescal.
mm,
So for people that don't know what that is, it's a pretty challenging sweat lodge. So you're in this, pretty small hut with like 30 plus people. And these rocks, like at least 30 to 40 rocks, are just heated in a fire pit for so long, to the point where they're just like so hot. And there's a pit in the middle of the hut, and everybody kind of sits in there, and it's covered. We even covered it with tarp, really kept in the heat. And it's a ceremony. It's considered a medicine. And you go in there and you close everything. You put the rocks in, and there's 4 doors. And I think it's water. Is it water, wind? I know the last one's fire and earth.
yeah.
Yeah. Camilo led that. And yeah, the rocks, there's like 4 rounds with those 4 doors, and everybody goes in, and we said a prayer, everybody, in the beginning and at the end. And so the first round goes in, and we pour water, and it just gets all steamy in there. So hot, dude. It's it's pretty uncomfortable. You're in there probably definitely over 2 hours. Could be close to 3. And it's tough. It is tough. It can break you in a way.
Mm,
And I've had this like dense. It's gone now. I think
mm,
Hape actually is a really good tool for this. And I prayed right before we did Hape, before this session, to allow me to, have alignment with my heart, so that I can be fully present with this moment, and the power to step into my own authority and to be able to speak from the heart.
mm,
It's gone. This is gone, but it's come up a lot over the course of my life, and been more, maybe I've just been more aware of it over the course of the past couple of years, and it was coming up, and it was residing like in my throat chakra throughout most of the Temescal.
mm,
And at the very end, the 4th door, when we're all just like so tired, sweating so much, exhausted, and just, just in it, man, for hours. We all go around and say our prayer. And I've always said, like, it's so interesting to see what comes up,
mm,
because you don't plan it. Maybe some people do, but for me, you don't. Because you're in there for so long, to be able to just have like this back and forth mindset. It's like you conserve energy, you have clarity when you just focus on your prayer,
mhm,
or just focus on the stillness.
mm,
And what came up for me was, unguard the shield within my heart, so that I can vibrate with more love and light. And I got out of the, Temescal. I was like the second person to get out, and the sun was setting on the ranch. It was beautiful. It was so beautiful. We all had 15 minutes of silence too. Like everybody got out and there was just no one talking
Mhm.
and watching the sunset. And the words that came after too was, allow me to let go of the fear of judgment, because I
Mm.
believe that that's what has been causing this dense energy within me. And it's just, I kept repeating it and taking
Mm.
deep breaths. But that feeling still kind of resided in my throat. And, something that was pretty magical that I relayed to a few people, Julian being, once again, the amazing man that he is and healer that he is, mentor that he is. As we were finishing our moment of silence and we were circling back around the fire pit, we grabbed that little bit of tobacco
Mm.
to say another prayer, throw it in the fire pit. And as we were circled and Camila was saying a few words, I was standing next to Julian, and so crazy. Uh, in my own thought process, I was, aware of this feeling in my throat. And I said, the memory of some of the other men asking him to help move energy through them. I was curious about that. I was like, and so in my thoughts, as he was standing next to me, I did not speak this out loud. I said, Julian, please help me.
Mm.
And I shit you not, 4 seconds after that thought commenced, he just intuitively put his hand on my back and just like pushed up on a spot on my back.
Mm.
And I was like, whoa, that was kind of crazy. Um, and we walked away. We put that, I think it was tobacco, into the fire, so that, did our prayer. And then I actually approached him after to ask him if he could help me. And he's like, yeah, we can do it. How about tomorrow? And if I can't help you, then the medicine will. But moments after all of that, the feeling went away. And so I can't help but feel like, was it my own subconscious belief that Julian just helped me? And yeah, I was just going back and forth. I was like, what just happened there? Like, it just felt so, like I said, real life magic,
Mhm.
the way that happened. And, after too, like the last ceremony, we were all going through it. And I felt like there was this kind of current of just trying to help each other. And I felt a real connection to Julian. I mean, so many people, but it's just so grateful for him, man.
Mm.
So that was really cool. Um, but yeah, I wanted to share that.
Yeah, shout out Julian.
Shout out, Julian.
Uh, hmm. What else do I want to share about the temescal? I'm always blown away by that medicine. It's such a deep ceremony for me every time. It's really, I mean, I used to be claustrophobic and I used to not be able to sit
Mm,
in the sauna. And the first temescal I ever did, I thought I was gonna die.
mm,
There was like an
yeah.
80-year-old woman sitting next to me, my grandma. She just held my hand the whole time, and
What a G.
it's amazing. And this was the first sweat lodge I ever sat in with a kid. He was 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
We had a kid in ours.
No, that's what I'm saying. This is
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that was
there was a 10-year-old in our
crazy.
sweat lodge,
Yeah.
and I was sitting next to him, and I felt so powerful the whole time. It wasn't hard for me at all.
Mm,
It was I was scared that it was gonna be really hard,
yeah.
and I was just like stoically just receiving
Same, man.
the steam and the
Yeah.
prayer and the song, and I was like, wow, I'm really strong now.
Mm,
I'm really not afraid anymore.
mm,
Of course, things come up, and you create that millimeter of space, and you witness it, and you say, "Oh, hey, thanks." But one of the things I took away from that sweat was actually his prayer, which was, I believe it was on the second door, the fire door, the masculine door, and he every time we brought in a new stone, he would put some copal on the stone and say a prayer, and his prayers were so simple and so profound. I think all of us were like, "Yo." But his first prayer was happiness,
mm,
and it was like, And then, what you would think a 10-year-old would say. And then the next prayer was happy relationships.
Mm.
You were like, oh, that's pretty deep. And then the next prayer was peace. Dang. And then the last prayer was presence while you're here.
Mm.
And that is so profound. So simple.
So simple.
But it's so, if you can walk that way in this world.
Kids have wisdom, man.
You're good. So, I'm excited to go to Solar Punk, take all of this wisdom. I'm talking there on Sunday. I got 5 retreats coming up. Lots of people that I get to share this medicine with, this wisdom with, and as things come up, I'll continue to share. And I'm just super grateful for this container, Jane.
Yeah, man. I love you, dude.
I love you too.
I think that's a good way to wrap it up, man. So if you want to shout out how people can find you, feel free to express that.
Yeah. My handle is at the SoulFULL, FULL
Love that. It's such a badass handle.
I'm the SoulFULL CEO. We are the CEO of our own lives. Right? When I say CEO, I'm actually talking about the chief experience officer of my life. So you can find me there. ftranch.com is our retreat center. And I'll leave a couple things in the show notes for the Google ad grant as well.
Yeah, man.
Strategy to growth. And hit me up.
Yes. Thank you so much. All right. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.
Woo!